This is Reds Down Under, your Australian-based Liverpool fan podcast for people just like you, Reds. On today's podcast, we're going to be looking at one of the best goalkeeping performances you've ever seen from Alison against PSG in the Champions League. We're going to look at Arne's slot tactical genius against Southampton to change the game and to get Liverpool the win. We'll look at the PSG game at Anfield in the Champions League on Thursday. We'll also look ahead to the League Cup final. Hopefully Liverpool can win their first trophy of the season. Success breeds success, so let's hope we win that one. We've got fan questions from you, which I'll answer, which I will every week. And we also have a little bit of LFC trivia, which is just a little bit of fun. If you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a subscribe, give it a like, comment on it so the algorithm thinks that it's the best pod ever and gives it to other Reds in Australia. Thanks so much. Enjoy the pod.
This is the Reds Down Under podcast, the best place to follow the Reds in Australia. Enjoy the show.
We are the Reds Down Under, and this is our podcast.
Right, Reds, before we get into it, let me thank a couple of people for helping us get to this point so far. Thanks to everyone who's followed the journey at the start of the pod. You are literally the reason why we're making the pod, so thanks for getting involved, thanks for subscribing, thanks for doing your likes, comments on Instagram, all of that stuff. People stopping me in the boozer to say that they're enjoying the pod is such a nice compliment. Thank you to George Sefton, who did our intro, the voice of Anfield. 54 years George has been there, through thick and thin. We all have, mate. Thank you to Royal MG, who did our song. My brother and his mate Justin from Royal MG did our This Is Our Podcast song. And a huge thank you to Courtney, who did our logo and graphics, and to Magic Box, because without them, we like, this wouldn't have happened, really. Well, it would have happened, but it probably would have started next season. But they're our production partner. They are helping us massively by using some of their kit that they've got from their production team. And they're a great company. They help businesses get all their stuff together so that they can focus on making money, making a difference, instead of all the other nonsense that businesses have to do. Let's get into it. We've got loads to talk about. The Reds are 16 points clear in the Premier League. I am having a party in my head. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm having a party. It's done. I was on Sunday, it's Monday today, I was with Curtis, who's a good friend of mine, and he's going to come on the pod, actually. He's actually a Man United fan, and we were talking about it, and just this slight heartbreak on his face that he knows it's done. And today, Man United drew with Arsenal to make it 16 points. Glory, Man United. Hey. It was hard for me to say that, like I did stutter on it. But let's start first with the Champions League and the smash and grab that was PSG away. Because I was in work, so I couldn't watch the game live. So I work in construction. So I was up the wall, and then every now and again I'd check my phone to see what the score was. And I actually put my phone on for a split second. Literally just went, I'll jump in the Stan app. I was done all my work that I needed to do. I was waiting on other people. I thought I'll just press Stan Sport and see what's happening. Pressed it, and Harvey Elliott literally scored right then, there and then. And then I got a call on the radio. I had to go. And people were just texting me non-stop, basically, because I used to be a goalkeeper. So people know, you know, I have a vested interest in goalkeepers. I'm definitely in the union. We all get together once a year. Me, Peter Schmeichel, Petr Cech, Alison, Becker. We all just get together and slag defenders off, basically. But everyone was saying Alison Becker is having the game of his life. Reds, so me Mrs. Chelsea, I know, went to the shop to get us some tea for tomorrow because we've got people over, and I texted the same doing the pod, so just give us a little bit of time. And she didn't get it because she was in the car park, and she just came up with loads of shopping. So if you just experienced the real weird cut and me wondering who was trying to get in my front door, that's what's just happened. We were talking about Alison Becker, people saying it was the best goalkeeping performance. I genuinely can't remember many better performances from a goalkeeper like that. I thought Alison was brilliant in the Champions League final against Spurs in 2019. I mean, he didn't do anything special that night, but he was really solid. And I try and think of other individual goalkeeping performances. I think it's hard to hear it, but Courtois against Liverpool in Paris in the Champions League final was unbelievable. The one he saved on Mane, where he saved it onto the post, and then the right-footed Salah chance as well, was an unbelievable performance. But this Alison Becker performance was fantastic. I think that Liverpool's goalkeeping situation is not only the best goalkeeping situation in the world right now in world football, but I think it's possibly the best situation that there's ever been, ever, for any club. I mean, you've got Alison Becker, who's your number one, undisputed number one for me. He's the best goalkeeper in the world. Doesn't really have a weakness. I know in the past he's made a couple of errors, but he doesn't really have a weakness. Kelleher could play for most teams and would be completely comfortable. He was playing in the Liverpool team this year and last year as well, who were battling for major trophies. And I know we made a mistake against Newcastle away, but other than that, he's brilliant. And to be honest, he could potentially go to Newcastle or Chelsea in the summer. And then you've got the lad from Valencia, he looks like he's going to be the future number one. Liverpool have got 3 goalkeepers at the moment who most teams in the world would love to have. And I'm really interested to see what happens in the summer, because I wouldn't take it for granted that Alison Becker will be there. But back to PSG, back to the game. He was amazing. Alison Becker was amazing. He had a part to play. He had a part to play in the goal. What are my notes saying here? I watched the game back. I thought it was unbelievable. The bench won the game for Liverpool. And this is something we'll come on to again for the Southampton game, because it happened again. Darwin Núñez did what Darwin Núñez can do and caused a little bit of chaos in the centre-back area there for PSG. Long ball from Alison. Núñez is challenging for the ball, manages somehow to get the ball, and then the man who comes on for Mo Salah, who I think we were all in a position there where you'd leave Salah on, the gaffer takes him off, Arne Slot takes him off, and Harvey Elliott puts a first-time left-foot finish past Donnarumma in goal. And it was a classic smash and grab sort of game. Had that feel of a game that we shouldn't have won, but we did. We got the goal that goes back to Anfield and will put us in good stead for the Anfield game. Looking ahead to that Anfield game, which is on Thursday, one of the things that stood out to me against PSG, and it hasn't really happened often this season, happens a couple of times, and ironically against Newcastle, who we will talk about because of course we've got the League Cup final coming up next weekend, is PSG completely dominated the midfield. And we spoke last week about how Liverpool's midfield compares to other teams and the goal contributions and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, it was brilliant that Harvey Elliott was mentioned in that list and he gets himself another European goal against PSG. But the midfield 3 for Liverpool, Szoboszlai, McAllister and Grafenberg, McAllister and Grafenberg in a double pivot, just got completely outran, and couldn't keep the ball. And I think it was part of the game plan by Slot to play a low block, as Mourinho would call it, and to try and affect the game with the pace that we've got and the ability on the counter-attack. But I just thought at times in that game we were missing a certain type of player. And I thought, when I was watching the game back, I thought, who would I pick to come on in this game to affect this game, to make sure that we win it? And I was thinking, would a Xabi Alonso be a player who could come on, spray a pass, relieve pressure, that sort of player? But I think the one that really stood out to me was Thiago, because sometimes, Thiago did get criticised for, he's 5-yard pass back, 5-yard pass, but what he managed to do was control the rhythm of the game, like a Cesc Fabregas sort of would do, a Xavi would do, and Thiago for me was arguably the best at that. And I thought against PSG, it would have been nice in moments to be able to get that player who could drop a shoulder and spread the game or keep it tight and keep it close and create a couple of little triangles. And I think thinking ahead already to next season, generally speaking, I'm quite happy with the midfield, but I think that player to come in and slot in, say, with a McAllister and a Grafenberg, not like a Szoboszlai who wants to get back and forth, but a player who literally wants to come in and wants to play 5-yard passes, could be huge for the team. Like Zubimendi was the big one last year. Never happened. He wanted to stay. Was it Sociedad? Is he play for Sociedad? Or Deportivo? Sociedad, wasn't it? He wanted to stay there and do his thing. And fair enough to him. That's his club. But that sort of player wouldn't go amiss. That's my only sort of concern in the game, is that we get overrun in midfield at Anfield. But the fans are going to be up for it. These sort of nights at Anfield, the feeling is overwhelming, really. It's like it's an arrogance. Coming to Anfield in the Champions League, we have an arrogance that we're going to beat you. And PSG are a good team, and I tell you what, they're not to be underestimated. I think they were a lot better than what people thought. But they're up against Liverpool in Anfield. This is what we do. This is our competition. I know Real Madrid have won it 15 times or something stupid, but when you look at the competition as a heritage, no one wants to go to Anfield and have to win. And I think that being in that position is interesting. And another thing which I was thinking about is, at times this season, Arne Slot has went, go on, we'll have a bit of chaos. We'll go for this. And it'd be interesting to see if in the first 10 minutes at Anfield on Thursday, does he go, yeah, you know what, let's go wild. Let's open these up. Let's go for it. Let's make the ground the worst place that PSG could ever be in the world. Or does he go, you know what, we're going to keep it tight. We're going to keep it controlled. And if we need Anfield late on in the game, they will be there. And it will be enough to help us try and get the win. I'm really interested to see what happens with that. I do have a prediction for it. I don't think we'll have a winner on the game, but obviously we'll have a winner on the tie. I think it'll be 1-1. I think PSG will score. I think Liverpool will score. Hopefully Cody Gakpo's back, because I think the game will be perfect for Cody. I think it will be 1-1. Liverpool will progress into the next round of the Champions League, but these are the moments, really, I wish I was there, because the atmosphere is going to be unbelievable. The Reds played an absolutely brilliant game against Southampton at the weekend. Let me have another little sip of tea here. I got a little bit of stick on Instagram this week. People saying 1 week I'm having beer, the next I'm having pure peppermint. But I've got to look after myself. The Southampton game, actually, I went round to my brother Jack's, who was on the pod the other week, to watch the game, and what actually happened was we played Monopoly, me, my missus Chelsea, and Jack and his missus, and we played Monopoly, and me and Jack weren't that good. The girls were really good. They knocked us out. I went for a nap so we could get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and watch the Reds. I got up and they were still playing Monopoly, even though we started playing at like 9 o'clock. And then I put the game on and Jack fell asleep next to me on the couch. So even though I went round to his to watch the game, I ended up watching it on my own. So nice one, our kid. The mistake that led to the goal, the Southampton goal, is something that I've seen too often. And not that exact position, but, and I've said this a couple of times, but Virgil van Dijk doesn't like to defend. He's the best defender in the world, but if you ever look at him when he is had to defend, he looks so upset that he's had to go and break a sweat. And I think that the Southampton goal, Virgil van Dijk could have dealt with that ball, no problem. He could have put it out for a throw-in, no problem. He could have put it out for a corner, no problem. He probably could have took a touch towards the byline and tried to hoof it up towards Mo Salah, no problem. But he doesn't deal with it. And what he does is, to Alison Becker, is he forces the goalkeeper to make a decision where he has to come and try and affect the moment. And to be honest with you, I thought it was a foul on Alison. I thought he got fouled by that lad. I don't know who that lad is. And then that small bone, that John Joe Shelby, bloody Temu version, wish.com, John Joe Shelby, small bone scores. And it's little moments like that, worry you, because we do control games, but then there is always this moment of, I think, complacency from Van Dijk. I'm not knocking the guy. He's a legend. Love him. Like, I'm sure he smells amazing as well. But, these are the moments where you just go and do your job, as Roy Keane would say. Go and do your job. And he didn't. And I think it's little things like that with Van Dijk sometimes that annoy me. But not to harp on about Virgil van Dijk. I think the changes that the manager made in the game were brilliant. I think Arne Slot is showing himself as tactical genius is that term that people use, but Arne Slot is very adept at changing a game tactically. We started the game with a 4-2-1-3 with Szoboszlai in the 10 and Gravenberch and Curtis Jones in the double pivot. And it wasn't a disaster of a first half by any stretch, I don't think. Curtis Jones had a chance he probably should have scored. There was a couple of moments where Southampton, who, by the way, defended like bloody beavers, I thought they played well, Southampton. There was moments in the game and I thought it didn't need changing, but the gaffer changes it. He brings on McAllister. He brings on Harvey Elliott for Szoboszlai. And he brings on Robbo at left back. And it completely changed the game. It looked to me in the second half that we went from a 4-2-1-3 to a 4-3-3. So Harvey Elliott was on the right side of a midfield three. Gravenberch was sort of essentially that single pivot on his own. And then you had McAllister, who was maybe not as high up the park or wide as Harvey Elliott, but was sort of given a little bit more freedom to go and play. because Harvey Elliott was given so much license to play wide, which is something that Szoboszlai does occasionally, but I think suits Harvey Elliott, it created an overload on the right-hand side. So you had Harvey Elliott playing wide on the right. You had Mo Salah sort of playing that inverted right winger then, but congested. And then you had Trent Alexander-Arnold went from what was quite a wide-looking position in the first half to quite a narrow position, actually, and in that sort of hybrid control the game sort of position, maybe to help us because we'd gone an actual midfield three and we no longer had a double pivot, so we could go in there with Gravenberg and make sure that we didn't get overloaded in the midfield. And we did overload on that right hand side, and it sort of blocked Salah off, because Salah had a couple of moments in the first half. Luis Diaz had nothing. He had one moment where he cut in and he sort of ballooned it. Cut in on his right and he ballooned it. It was shocking. But it was all about trying to get Mo Salah in. In the second half, with the midfield three, we were gunning down that right-hand side all the time, but Southampton was so compact and it was so congested in there. But then, to me, it was no surprise that Andy Robertson comes on and he actually sort of plays a little bit inverted and underlaps on Luis Diaz. And Luis Diaz plays high, wide and left. And that's where the goal comes from. Southampton was so preoccupied with the defending Mo Salah and Elliott and Trent that they left Luis Diaz, who's arguably Liverpool's best dribbler, completely isolated. And that's where the goal comes from. So I think that change for Arne Slot just shows that he's looking at it. He's not completely dead set that this is the way we have to play. He's a manager who's willing to change it, which bodes, I think, very well for what could be a very complicated end of season. And hopefully some huge moments in the Champions League where you need your manager to do a Benitez and make a little change, which might not be an exciting change, but can kill the game. And Endo as well, coming on. Again, absolutely brilliant. Darwin Núñez scoring the goal and getting fouled for the penalty, nearly getting a red card, which, by the way, was nonsense. It was never a red card, that. The commentators got a bit excited. Stephen Warnock got a bit excited with it, but that's what he's like. He is an enigma. You don't know what you're going to get from him, but he massively contributes there. Jota came on but didn't really do anything at the end of the game, but I think at that point we were controlling the game. Mo Salah scores 2 goals to go in the top 3 now of all-time Liverpool scorers. The superlatives for this guy just don't stop, really. Who knew he was going to be the player he was when we signed him? I remember the first time I seen him live was we played Arsenal at Anfield, I think the second game of the season in his first season. And we broke on the counter-attack, and Bellerin, I think, trying to, with a high foot from a corner, and Salah got his head on it and went down the other end and put it in. And everyone was like, who's this guy? This guy has got it. And he just hasn't stopped since. Mo Salah, legend, love you, good lad. I think what Liverpool have been doing really well is using the bench. And I think it's got to be the way moving forward. If we can rest players or rotate players, but then still bring on the big guns like we did against Southampton and get results, then that will only bode well for the squad, because you never know when you're going to need a Simicast, as shows in the League Cup final of last year, which we'll talk about later. What have we got next? Some fan questions from you guys. Could complacency be an issue in the final? from Will in Brisbane. Will, we will talk about the cup final in more detail, as I was just saying. Liverpool should win the cup, mate. Liverpool should win the cup. For them, it's a huge day out. They haven't won a trophy in... Well, I've never seen Newcastle win a trophy. I don't know if any of you can remember Newcastle winning a trophy. They got to the final a couple of years ago against Man United and they got beat. Karius was in goal. Did you see Karius' save for, I think, Schalke? Double save in the Bundesliga or the second Bundesliga, whatever they call it. Unbelievable. Good to see Karius back. I don't think there will be complacency. I think these are the games that you have to turn up and you have to do it. And for that reason, I think that the experience in the squad won't let any of the other players get too excited with themselves. At the end of the day, there's a trophy there to be won, and we're Liverpool, and that's what we do, mate. So I hope there's no complacency for the Reds. And I've got a message from Jay in Liverpool. Jay, how are you, mate? One thing you miss about going to the match at home. You know what? Obviously the people you go to the match with, but the routine of going to the match, you know, more than the actual single things itself, but just all of those things put together to make the match day experience. We talked last week or the week before about our match routines now, and obviously you've got to change and adapt because you're in a different place and it kicks off at 2:00 in the morning. But yeah, I think if that's one thing I could change, would be to be able to go 3:00 in the afternoon with a pub full of Reds and watch the Reds. That's what I would love to do here, and I can do it, but it's at 3:00 in the morning. But that's what I would say I would miss. Let's talk about the cup final, shall we? Because this is what it's all about, isn't it? As Liverpool fans, cup final days, big days out, going to Wembley, talking to your mates. How are they getting there? They getting the bus? They getting the train? What time are they getting there? Are they going to go for something to eat when they're down there? Are you going to buy a crate of beer on the way, you know, in Liverpool and bring it down? Or are you going to get a couple of beers on the Virgin train? All of that sort of planning. What booze are you going to be in Wembley? The whole experience of travelling down to London for that game. And to be honest, it sort of does me head in. It's in London all the time. You know, you could easily have the cup final in Old Trafford. You know, if it was two northern teams, for example, like Liverpool and Newcastle, you could easily do it there. But it is special going to Wembley as well. I went to the one in 2017. Was that Klopp's first year? 2016. We got beat by City on penalties. Went with me dad. Met up with the Ravels, me mates, and just being part of that whole atmosphere. Songs all day long, drinking all day long, walking down Wembley Way and seeing that arch, and it's different to what you were told as a kid, because my dad always used to talk about cup finals and Liverpool and the Twin Towers at Wembley, and that was the thing. And it's different now, but you get the arch, and just that feeling that this is it. This is the reason why we're football fans at the end of the day. You go through a league season, we all have great moments. This is what we'll be talking about on the pod, all the great moments, all the shit moments along the way. And then you get to go to the final. You get to watch the final. You get to enjoy it. If we win the cup, it makes you weak. You're buzzing. Then you're saying, oh, we've won a cup. We might go and win the league now. We might go and win the Champions League. And suddenly it's a special season. So yeah, those experiences are going the cup. cup finals are the best days of your life. And even though we lost that day against Manchester City, you know, being there with me dad in that stadium, like, is what it's all about. You know, the only thing I'd trade is the result. I was also thinking about some of my other memories of the League Cup. The League Cup was the first trophy I ever seen Liverpool win. So I think they won it, or we won it, in 95, I think, or 96. But I was too young then. And then we got beat in the 96 FA Cup final when Cantona scored for United. And then we played 2000 against Birmingham City in the League Cup, and that was the first time I'd seen Liverpool win a trophy. And we won it on penalties. Sander Westerveld was the hero on the day in that green goalkeeper kit, you know, the one with the navy stripe across Carlsberg. Beautiful goalkeeper kit. Great goalkeeper as well. He was a good goalkeeper, him. Maybe not a great goalkeeper, but he was a very, very good goalkeeper, wasn't he? Jamie Carragher, I think, scored the winning penalty as well. Didn't put them in for England, but he did for the Reds, Jamie. So that's all that matters, really. Who cares about England? Then, 2 years later, we played Man United in Cardiff again, and we beat them 2-0. Stevie Gerrard had a deflected shot off Beckham and looped over Fabian Barthez. We won the game 2-0. That was 2003, and you know, that was a great United team. That was a really great Manchester United team. And then when was the next time after that we won the League Cup? Under Kenny Dalglish, wasn't it? 2012, and Kenny came back and won the League Cup. We played Cardiff City, and we won that on pens as well. And Steven Gerrard's cousin missed the final penalty, I think, Anthony Gerrard. And to see Kenny Dalglish win a trophy at Liverpool was unbelievable. You know, he was always going to be a transition manager, get us on to the next thing. Brendan Rodgers came in after that and was unlucky, wasn't he? But yeah, to see Kenny win that trophy and seeing how much it meant to, you know, because people talk about the League Cup like it doesn't matter. But it does matter. It matters to the fans, to the people. It might not matter so much to the clubs, but if you're a fan and you get to go to Wembley and watch your team play at Wembley and win a trophy, a major trophy, by the way, there's nothing better than that, is there? Or if you're in a pub in Sydney, you're going to watch the game and you get to watch it with Reds and we win a trophy, there's not a better feeling in the world. It might not be the most valuable trophy to the clubs, but that's what football is, isn't it? It's about winning trophies. You should ask Everton, because they haven't won one for 30 years and they're fucking miserable. Yeah, and to see Stevie Gerrard and Jamie Carragher so happy with Kenny that we'd won that League Cup trophy. And I mean, to be honest, we had a good crack at the FA Cup that year, didn't we? As well, but we got beat by Chelsea in that final. And then, yeah, I mean, the one that really stood out to me was the one against Chelsea last year. All the kids are playing. Not really many of the big stars are playing. And it gets into extra time. And Chelsea have got the ball, but not much is happening. And I remember the commentary, because the fans are just singing LA, LA. And I think Gary Neville in commentary says, these Liverpool fans smell something. And that's exactly what it was. We smelled the fear of Chelsea, and that they were the ones with everything to lose and we were the ones with everything to win. I think that's the way you have to be in a cup final. That's the way we have to be in this cup final. If we approach it that we're Liverpool and we should beat Newcastle, and if we don't, we're going to be the laughing stock, then fear will come in. But if we approach it and say, no, Newcastle are a good team, they can hurt us on the day, but we are Liverpool and we will do everything we can to win the game, we'll win the game. What else have we got on the League Cup? If we keep Isaac quiet, we keep Newcastle quiet. No Anthony Gordon for them, suspended. Lewis Hall is injured. Two players who have been waxing lyrical about on this podcast. I'm not a Newcastle fan, honestly. But I think if we keep Isaac quiet on the day, I think we win the trophy. They do have lots of talent in that squad, but we should have too much for them. And to be honest, I've got a prediction here, 2-0. But who knows? It could be many things, couldn't it? Who knows? So let us know where you're watching the game, Reds. It kicks off at 3:30. And yeah, I have every intention of getting up and watching it. Although I am in work at 7 and I normally get up at 5:30. So what I'm thinking is a very early night on Sunday. Make sure I get me 8 hours in. Get up at 3:20, watch the cup final, go to work, be knackered on the Monday. But that's all right. But then I'll be recording the podcast with John Sharkey. He's going to be on. So it's going to be one hell of a Monday. But if we win the cup, who gives a fuck, eh? I mentioned it right at the start of the podcast. If you're enjoying it, please do give us a like on the video, or if you're on YouTube, give us a subscribe, comment on the video. The algorithm likes it. We really want to get as many Reds in this country as we can to be part of this community. Basically, the more people we get, the more fun stuff we can do. If you've got a Red who you know is in Australia, flick them over the link. The link is on Instagram. It'll be on the show notes, on the link tree, on the YouTube as well. Just flick it over to them. Just say, hey, look, give this a crack. And if you're on Spotify and Apple, give us a 5-star review if you like it. If you don't like it, give a bad review if you want, but a review is a review and it will help us with the algorithm. All right, let's do a little bit of Liverpool FC trivia. I did this last week and people seem to like it, so I'm going to do it again. Let's have a go at it. I will do it quite quickly, so if you've got pens and paper, get them out. If you've got your notes in your phone, get your phone out. You've probably already got it out because you're listening to this. And we'll go through some LFC questions, and I think they're all related to the League Cup as well. So, super relevant. Thanks very much, ChatGPT. Question number 1. Who scored the winning penalty in Liverpool's 2022 League Cup final shootout against Chelsea? Who scored the winning penalty in Liverpool's 2022 League Cup final shootout against Chelsea? The answer is Kostas Tsimikas, the Greek Scouser. Question number 2. Who provided the assist for Virgil van Dijk's extra time winner in the 2024 League Cup final against Chelsea? The answer, Kostas Tsimikas. Not all the questions is Kostas Tsimikas. I absolutely promise you. It was just the way it happened. Number 3, who was Liverpool's manager when they won the 2003 League Cup final against Manchester United? A game we talked about, but I never mentioned the manager. Absolute legend. What a lovely man. If you guessed Gerard Houllier, it was Gerard Houllier. Who let the Reds out? Houllier. Number 4, in what year did Liverpool win a record 9th League Cup title? I mean, we've won so many, it's hard to keep track, isn't it, Reds? But when did we win the 9th title? I'll give you a second for this one because you might have to count backwards. I'm not very good at counting, and I'm not very good at doing buttons, like on a shirt, and shoelaces. But neither was Einstein, and he did all right. The answer was 2022. We won the 9th League Cup title. And question number 5, and the final question. Steven Gerrard scored in 2 League Cup finals for Liverpool. Can you name both years? Oh, this is a good one. Can you tell I've only just read the questions? Yeah, this is a good one. 2001, 2005. Now, we actually lost in 2005 to Jose Mourinho's Chelsea. It's when Mourinho did that. What an arsehole. John Arne scored one of the quickest goals ever as well in that League Cup final. I think I might have given you one of the years when I was talking then. But he scored in 2 League Cup finals. Which years? It was 2001 against Birmingham City and Chelsea in 2005. I think I give you 2005. What an absolute idiot. What an absolute idiot. That's pretty much everything, Reds, I think we needed to talk about. Yeah, we've talked about Alison being the best goalkeeper in the world, Arne Slot being a tactical genius, how bossed the Liverpool fans are, and we've also done a fairly average trivia. Next week we will be reviewing the cup final and hopefully Liverpool progressing in the Champions League. So fingers crossed that everything goes our way for that. We will have John Sharkey on, musician, massive Liverpool fan. John Sharkey III. He's a great fella. The only downside to him is that he's American. But I won't hold it against him. He's a nice fella. You can get to know him next week. Reds, next time I see you, Liverpool will hopefully be through in the Champions League. Will hopefully have their first cup competition of the season. And what a day for being a Blue. It's cup final day. And you've got fuck all to do. Everton, we're all laughing at you. See you, Reds.
We are the Reds down under, and this is our pod.